The sky burned orange and red as another Drath warship crashed into the mountains. Danny Cole wiped the blood from his eyes and kept firing. His rifle was so hot it was burning his hands through his gloves, but he did not stop. He could not stop. Behind him, thousands of Valorian civilians were running toward the evacuation ships. If he stopped firing, they would all die. Danny was 26 years old. He had grown up on a small farm in Nebraska, where his biggest worry had been whether the corn would grow tall enough that year. Now he was standing on an alien planet, fighting monsters from another galaxy, and wondering if he would live to see another sunrise. The Drath were terrible creatures. They stood 8 feet tall, with hard black shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 4 arms, each ending in claws that could cut through steel. Their eyes were empty and cold, showing no fear, no mercy, no emotion at all. They moved as one, controlled by a single mind that spread across their entire species. When one Drath saw you, they all saw you. When one Drath wanted you dead, 1,000,000 wanted you dead. The Valorian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were a beautiful people, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like pearl and eyes that glowed with inner light. They could read minds and move objects with their thoughts. They had built great cities of crystal and light, created art that made visitors weep with joy, and developed technology that seemed like magic to younger species. But they were not fighters. They had forgotten how to be fighters. When the Drath swarm came pouring out of the dark spaces between stars, the Valorians did not know what to do. Their weapons were elegant but weak. Their soldiers were brave but untrained. Planet after planet fell to the swarm, and the great empire began to crumble. Then they found the humans. Humanity had only been traveling among the stars for 100 years. They were young, primitive, and loud. The Valorians had ignored them at first, thinking them too savage to be worth noticing. But when the Drath came, the Valorians noticed something interesting. The humans were not afraid. The humans did not run. The humans picked up their simple weapons and fought back with a fury that shocked the entire galaxy. The Valorians offered humanity a deal. Fight for us, and we will share our technology. Protect our empire, and we will make you rich beyond your dreams. The humans agreed, not for the money or the technology, but because the Drath were evil and someone had to stop them. Danny had been fighting for 3 years now. He had seen friends die. He had killed more Drath than he could count. He had earned medals and promotions, but none of that mattered right now. Right now, all that mattered was the wall. The northern wall of the Zeroth Prime Defense Station had been breached. A Drath bomb had blown a hole 30 feet wide, and the monsters were pouring through like water through a broken dam. Danny's commanding officer had ordered a retreat, but Danny had looked back and seen the evacuation ship still loading. If the Drath got through, 10,000 civilians would die. So Danny had stayed. He stood in the center of the breach, alone, and he started shooting. The first wave of Drath fell before they knew what was happening. The second wave climbed over the bodies of the first and kept coming. Danny threw a grenade, switched to his backup rifle, and kept shooting. His armor was cracked. His helmet was gone. Blood was running down his face from a cut on his forehead. But he did not move. The Drath kept coming. Danny kept killing them. Hours passed. Danny lost track of time. His world became very simple. See a Drath, kill a Drath, see another Drath, kill another Drath. His arms ached. His legs were shaking. Twice he fell to his knees, and twice he forced himself back up. He was not going to die on his knees. Other human soldiers saw what he was doing. They tried to reach him, tried to help, but the Drath were everywhere. All they could do was watch through their helmet cameras as one man held the line against an army on the Valorian homeworld. The High Council was watching too. Emperor Valdris sat on his crystal throne, surrounded by his advisors and his 7 daughters. and stared at the screen in disbelief. He had lived for 800 years. He had seen many wars, many heroes, many acts of courage. But he had never seen anything like this. The human soldier was not special. He had no psionic powers, no advanced technology, no genetic enhancements. He was just a man with a gun and a stubborn refusal to die. And somehow, impossibly, he was winning. The battle lasted 9 days. When it finally ended, the Drath had been pushed back. Zereth Prime was saved. Of the 3,000 human soldiers who had defended the planet, only 200 were still alive. Danny Cole was one of them. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. He felt empty. He sat in the ruins of the northern wall, surrounded by the bodies of the enemies he had killed, and waited for someone to tell him what to do next. What came next was something he never expected. A Quasso Wintetelected Valorian shuttle landed in front of him, gleaming silver against the smoke-filled sky. A messenger in golden robes stepped out and bowed deeply. "Sergeant Danny Cole," the messenger said, "Emperor Valdris commands your presence. You are to come to the homeworld immediately. The Emperor wishes to reward you for your service." Danny looked down at himself. His armor was destroyed. His uniform was soaked with blood, both his own and the enemy's. He smelled like death and gunpowder. "Can I take a shower first?" he asked. The messenger blinked, confused by the question. "The Emperor is waiting." Danny sighed and stood up. His legs almost gave out, but he forced them to hold. "Fine. Let's go meet the Emperor." As the shuttle lifted off, Danny looked down at the battlefield one last time. He thought about the friends he had lost, the things he had done, the person he had become. He did not know what reward the Emperor would offer him. He did not know what he would ask for. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a thought was forming. A thought about worth, about value, about what really mattered in this cold and violent galaxy. A thought that would change his life forever. The shuttle turned toward the stars, and Danny Cole closed his eyes to rest. He had a feeling he was going to need his strength. The Valorian homeworld was called Valoria Prime, and it was the most beautiful planet Danny had ever seen. The cities were made of crystal that caught the light of 3 suns and scattered it into 1,000,000 rainbows. The air smelled sweet, like flowers and honey. The people moved through the streets like dancers, their movements graceful and slow. Danny felt very out of place. He was still wearing his broken armor, still covered in dirt and dried blood. The Valorians who saw him stepped aside quickly, their glowing eyes wide with something that might have been fear or disgust. He did not blame them. He probably looked like a monster to them. The Imperial Palace was the largest building Danny had ever seen. It rose from the center of the capital city like a mountain of glass, its towers reaching so high they seemed to touch the clouds. Guards in silver armor stood at every door, watching Danny with careful eyes as he passed. The throne room was at the heart of the palace. It was a vast circular chamber with walls of pale blue crystal and a floor that seemed to be made of solid light. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single perfect diamond, sat Emperor Valdris. The Emperor was old. Danny could see it in his eyes, which held the weight of centuries. His skin was pale silver, his hair was white as snow, and his body was thin and frail. But there was power in him still. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire room. "Sergeant Danny Cole of Earth," the Emperor said, "you have done a great service to our empire. Because of you, Zereth Prime still stands. Because of you, 10,000 of our people still live. We are grateful beyond words." Danny stood at attention, trying to remember the proper way to address an emperor. He had been given a quick lesson on the shuttle, but his brain was too tired to remember most of it. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty," he said. The Emperor smiled slightly. "Your humility does you credit. but we do not let such deeds go unrewarded. Name your price, Sergeant Cole. Anything within our power to give is yours. Wealth, land, ships, technology. You could become the richest human in the galaxy. You could have power that your people have never dreamed of. Danny looked around the throne room. He saw the advisors in their fine robes, the guards in their silver armor, the nobles whispering to each other behind decorated fans. He saw wealth and power everywhere he looked. Then he looked to the right of the throne, where 7 women sat on smaller chairs. The princesses. Each one was more beautiful than any woman Danny had ever seen. Their skin glowed with soft light. Their eyes sparkled like stars. Their dresses were made of materials that seemed to flow like water. 6 of them sat together, talking quietly among themselves. The 7th sat apart, at the far end of the row. She was smaller than her sisters, thinner, paler. Her dress was simple compared to theirs. Her head was bowed, her eyes fixed on her hands in her lap. She looked like she was trying to disappear. "Who is that?" Danny asked, pointing at her. The throne room went silent. The whispering stopped. Even the Emperor seemed surprised by the question. "That is Lisha," Valdris said slowly. "My youngest daughter. Why is she sitting alone?" The Emperor's face became uncomfortable. Lisha is different from her sisters. She was born under an eclipse, which is considered a bad sign among our people. And when she was young, she became ill with a disease that took away her psionic abilities. She cannot read minds or move objects with her thoughts like other Valorians. She is, in many ways, no longer truly one of us. Danny looked at Lisha. She had raised her head slightly and was looking back at him with pale purple eyes. There was no hope in those eyes, no expectation. She had clearly heard everything the Emperor said about her. She was used to hearing such things. "I want her," Danny said. The silence in the throne room became absolute. Danny could hear his own heartbeat. I do not understand," the Emperor said. "My reward. I want Princess Lisha." Valdris leaned forward on his throne. "Sergeant, surely you are joking. Lisha has no value. She cannot give you political power. She cannot give you military advantage. She cannot even give you healthy children, as her illness may have affected her genetics. My other daughters could offer you so much more. I don't want your other daughters. Valara controls a trade fleet worth 10 billion credits. Mirana has marriage alliances with 3 other empires. Syndra is a master of psionic combat and could protect you from any enemy. Any of them would be a worthy match for a hero like yourself." Danny shook his head. "I want Lisha." The Emperor sat back, clearly frustrated. "Why? Help me understand. Why would you choose the weakest, the most worthless of my children?" Danny thought about how to answer. He thought about his brother back on Earth, the one who had been born different, the one everyone said would never amount to anything. He thought about all the people he had known who were thrown away because they did not fit what society wanted them to be. "Where I come from," Danny said slowly, "we have a saying. You can judge a person by how they treat those who can do nothing for them. Your empire threw this woman away because she lost her powers. But I'm not from your empire. I don't care about psionic abilities or political alliances. I care about people." He looked at Lisha, who was staring at him with wide, confused eyes. "Everyone deserves a chance," Danny continued. "Everyone deserves someone who sees them as more than what they can or can't do. Your daughter has spent her whole life being told she's worthless. Maybe it's time someone told her different." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. His advisors whispered urgently to him, probably telling him to refuse, to offer something else, to not waste a princess on this strange human. But Valdris raised his hand and silenced him. "Very well," he said quietly. "If this is truly what you want, then Lisha is yours. But know this, Sergeant Cole. You have chosen a path that many will not understand. You have given up riches and power for a broken girl who will give you nothing in return." Danny smiled for the first time since the battle. "We'll see about that," he said. 3 days later, Danny and Lisha boarded a transport ship bound for Earth. They had spoken only a few words to each other since the throne room. Lisha seemed afraid to talk to him, afraid to believe that any of this was real. As the ship left Valorian space, Danny looked at his new wife and made a silent promise. He would show her what she was worth. He would show the whole galaxy. He just needed time. The farmhouse in Nebraska was not what Lisha had expected. She had grown up in a palace made of crystal, surrounded by servants and technology beyond human understanding. Danny's home was made of wood and stone. It had only 8 rooms. The roof leaked when it rained. She loved it immediately. Danny's parents, Greg and Linda, welcomed her like she was their own daughter. Linda hugged her the moment she walked through the door, something no one had done since Lish's mother died. Greg shook her hand firmly and told her she was family now, no matter what. Danny's younger sister Katie was 18 years old and full of energy. She grabbed Lish's hand and pulled her through the house, showing her every room, every photograph on the wall, every corner of the property. She talked so fast that Lisha could barely understand her, but it did not matter. The warmth in Katie's voice was clear in any language. "You're going to love it here," Katie said. "I mean, it's not fancy like where you're from, but we have good food and good people, and the sunsets are amazing." "Have you ever seen a Nebraska sunset?" "No? Oh, you're in for a treat. And we have a dog. His name is Biscuit. He's old and kind of fat, but he's the sweetest thing ever. Come on, let me introduce you." Lisha found herself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in years. The days that followed were strange and wonderful. There were no servants in the coal house, so everyone did their own work. Linda taught Lisha how to cook human food, starting with simple things like eggs and toast, and slowly moving to more complex dishes. Lisha burned things, dropped things, and made terrible mistakes, but Linda just laughed and helped her try again. "Cooking is like life," Linda said. "You mess up, you learn, you do better next time. The important thing is you keep trying." Greg showed her around the farm. He explained how they grew corn and soybeans, how they raised chickens for eggs and cows for milk. He let her help feed the animals, even though she was clumsy and nervous. When she accidentally let 3 chickens escape from their coop, Greg just smiled and helped her catch them. "Don't worry about it," he said. "Those chickens escape all the time. They like to think they're free birds." Danny was often away at the military base. But when he came home, he spent his time with Lisha. They would sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the sun go down, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, his dreams, his fears. She told him about life in the palace, about her sisters, about the loneliness that had followed her like a shadow. "I do not understand," Lisha said one night. "Why is everyone so kind to me? I am nothing. I have nothing to offer." Danny looked at her with serious eyes. "Who told you that?" "Everyone. My father, my sisters, the entire court. They said I was broken, worthless, a burden on the empire." "Well, they were wrong. How can you say that? You do not know me. You do not know what I was, what I lost. I had powers once, Danny. I could feel minds around me like lights in the darkness. I could move things with my thoughts. I was connected to everything. And then it all went away, and I was left empty." Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a young man in a wheelchair, smiling at the camera, surrounded by the Cole family. "This is my brother," Danny said. "His name was Pete. He was born with a disease that made his muscles weak. He could never walk, never run, never do any of the things healthy people do. The doctor said he would die young. Lisha looked at the photograph. The young man had Danny's eyes, kind and warm. What happened to him? He lived until he was 32. And in that time, he did more than most people do in 100 years. He couldn't use his body, so he used his mind. He learned everything he could about computers and farming. He created a program that helped farmers predict weather patterns and plan their crops better. That program saved thousands of farms from going bankrupt. It fed millions of people. Danny put the photograph back in his pocket. Pete never felt sorry for himself. He never let other people tell him what he could or couldn't do. He used to say that limitations are just invitations to find another way. Lisha felt something stir in her chest. He sounds like a remarkable person. He was. And you know what? Everyone told him he was worthless too. They looked at his wheelchair and saw weakness. They looked at his thin arms and saw failure. They didn't see the brilliant mind underneath, the strong heart, the determination that could move mountains. Danny turned to face Lisha directly. His eyes were intense but kind. The Valorians look at you and see what you lost. I look at you and see what you might become. You're not broken, Lisha. You're just different. And in my experience, different people are the ones who change the world. Lisha felt tears forming in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever looked at her and seen possibility instead of failure. What if you are wrong? She whispered. What if I really am worthless? Danny smiled and took her hand. Then I'll be wrong. But I don't think I am. I think there's something special inside you, something nobody else can see because they weren't looking. And I'm going to help you find it. That night, Lisha lay in bed and thought about Danny's words. For the first time since she lost her powers, she felt something other than despair. It was small, fragile, easily crushed. But it was there. Hope. She closed her eyes and made a decision. She would not give up. She would not accept what the Valorians had told her all her life. She would find out who she really was, what she was really capable of, and maybe, just maybe, she would prove them all wrong. 6 months passed. Lisha changed in ways she never expected. She learned to cook well enough that Linda started asking her for help with holiday dinners. She learned to care for the animals, and the chickens stopped running away from her. She learned to drive a truck, though Danny made her promise never to go faster than 30 miles per hour after she nearly crashed into the barn. She also learned to be happy. It happened slowly, so slowly that she did not notice at first. One day she realized she was laughing at one of Greg's terrible jokes, and she understood that something had shifted inside her. The emptiness was still there, the place where her powers used to be. But it did not hurt as much anymore. Then came the night of the storm. It was late autumn, and a massive thunderstorm rolled across Nebraska like an angry god. The wind howled. The rain fell so hard it sounded like rocks hitting the roof. Lightning turned night into day every few seconds. Danny was at the military base, 3 hours away. Greg and Linda had gone to visit relatives in town and were staying there until the storm passed. Katie was away at college. For the first time since she arrived, Lisha was alone in the farmhouse. She tried to stay calm. She lit candles and made tea and told herself that storms were natural things, nothing to fear. But when the power went out and the house fell into darkness, her calm broke. The darkness reminded her of the void inside her, the empty space where her connection to the universe used to live. She felt small and lost and terribly afraid. Without thinking, she reached out the way she used to reach out when she was a child, searching for the familiar glow of other minds. And she found something. It was not what she expected. It was not the sharp, clear signal of Valorian telepathy. It was softer, warmer, like sunlight filtered through clouds. She could not read thoughts or see images, but she could feel something, Emotions. Distant and faint. But definitely, their dots she focused harder, pushing through her fear. And suddenly she knew that Danny was thinking about her. She could not hear his thoughts, but she could feel his concern, his love, his worry that she was scared alone in the storm. He was 3 hours away, but she could sense him as clearly as if he were standing beside her. The storm raged on, but Lisha was no longer afraid. She sat in the darkness and explored this strange new sense, reaching out in all directions. She felt the animals in the barn, simple minds filled with simple concerns about food and warmth. She felt neighbors miles away, their emotions a distant hum in her consciousness. When Danny came home the next morning, driving through roads still covered with fallen branches, he found Lisha sitting on the porch with a look of wonder on her face. "Something happened," she said. "Something incredible." She told him everything. Danny listened without interrupting, his expression growing more amazed with each word. "So you can feel emotions?" he asked when she finished. "From far away?" "Yes, but it is not like Valorian telepathy. That was like shouting across a room. This is like hearing whispers on the wind. Gentle, subtle, different." Danny was quiet for a moment, thinking. Maybe your powers didn't disappear. Maybe they just changed. Into what? I don't know. But I know some people who might be able to help figure it out. Over the following weeks, Danny arranged meetings with human scientists who studied alien biology and psychology. They ran tests on Lisha, scanned her brain, measured her responses to various stimuli. What they found amazed everyone. The illness that had destroyed Lisha's psionic abilities had not simply erased them. It had transformed them. The parts of her brain that once controlled telepathy and telekinesis had rewired themselves into something new. She could no longer project her thoughts or move objects with her mind. But she had developed an empathic sensitivity that was beyond anything the scientists had ever seen. "It's like her brain found another way," Dr. Amy Norton, the lead researcher, explained. "When the old pathways were damaged, new ones formed. She can't do what Valorians do, but she can do something Valorians can't. She can read emotional states from incredible distances. We tested her with subjects in another building, and she could tell us exactly what they were feeling. Is this useful?" Danny asked. Dr. Norton laughed. "Useful? Sergeant Cole, this is revolutionary. Do you know how many conflicts could be avoided if we could truly understand what people were feeling? How many negotiations could be improved? How many lies could be detected? Princess Lisha has a gift that could change the course of history." Lisha listened to all this with mixed feelings. For so long she believed she was broken, worthless, empty. Now these humans were telling her she was special, valuable, important. It was hard to believe, but as the weeks turned into months, she began to see the truth of their words. Her ability grew stronger with practice. She could sense emotions from miles away now. She could tell when someone was lying, when they were afraid, when they were hiding something. She could feel the difference between anger and hurt, between love and obsession, between truth and deception. Danny watched her grow into her new power with pride. He had always believed there was something special inside her. Now the whole world was starting to see it. "How does it feel?" he asked her one evening, as they walked through fields of corn, turning golden in the autumn sun. Lisha thought about the question. "It feels like waking up from a long sleep. For years I thought I was blind, but I was just looking in the wrong direction. I was trying to see what I lost instead of discovering what I gained." She stopped and turned to face him. "You saw it before anyone else." "Before I saw it myself." "How did you know?" Danny shrugged. "I didn't know. I just hoped. And I believed." "Believed in what?" "In you. In the idea that worth isn't something you're born with. It's something you discover. Something you build. Lisha smiled, feeling tears prick at her eyes. Your brother Pete, he taught you that? He taught me a lot of things. But mostly he taught me that the people the world throws away are often the ones who matter most. Lisha reached out and took Danny's hand. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Somewhere in the distance, a bird was singing. For the first time in her life, Lisha felt complete. Not because she had found her power again, but because she had found her purpose, and she had a feeling her purpose was about to become very important. 2 years after Lisha came to Earth, the galaxy changed forever. It started with a single ship appearing at the edge of the solar system. Human defense forces scrambled, weapons powered up, ready for another fight. But the ship did not attack. Instead, it broadcast a message in every known language. The message was from the Drath. They wanted to talk. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Drath had never communicated before. They had only killed and consumed. For centuries, they had been a mindless swarm, destroying everything in their path. Now they were asking for peace. Most people thought it was a trick. The Valorians refused to respond. Other empires prepared for war. But the humans were curious. They always had been. A meeting was arranged at a neutral space station called Haven's Rest. Representatives from every major power would attend. The Drath would send a single ambassador, and everyone would try to figure out if this was real or just another Drath attack in disguise. There was one problem. No one trusted the Drath. No one could tell if they were being honest. Their minds were alien, their emotions unreadable, their intentions impossible to guess. Any agreement made with them could be a lie, unless someone could read their true feelings. The human government called Lisha. She sat in the coal farmhouse, looking at the official on her screen with disbelief. You want me to do what? We need you to attend the peace conference, the official said. We need you to read the Drath ambassador. Tell us if they're sincere or if this is some kind of trap. I have never tried to read a Drath. I do not even know if my ability works on non-humanoid minds. Neither do we. But you're the only person in the galaxy who might be able to do it. Please, Princess Lisha, we need your help. Danny sat beside her, holding her hand. He did not say anything. He did not need to. She could feel his support, his belief in her, as clearly as she could feel her own heartbeat. I will do it, she said. 3 weeks later, Lisha stood in the conference chamber of Haven's Rest. Around her sat representatives from a dozen species, including her father, Emperor Valdris, who had not spoken to her since she left Valoria Prime. Across the table sat the Drath ambassador. The creature was terrifying. 8 feet tall, covered in black armor-like shell, with 4 arms and empty silver eyes. It made clicking sounds when it breathed. When it moved, its joints scraped together like knives being sharpened. Lisha was afraid. She could admit that. But she was not going to let fear stop her. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. At first, there was nothing. The Drath mind was so different from anything she had encountered that she could not find a way in. It was like trying to grab water or hold smoke. Every time she thought she felt something, it slipped away. Then she changed her approach. She stopped trying to read the Drath the way she read humans. Instead, she simply opened herself up and listened, and she heard them. Not one voice, but millions. The Drath were not individuals. They were a collective, a vast network of minds connected across space. When she touched one, she touched them all. What she felt there broke her heart. Fear. Overwhelming, crushing fear. The Drath were terrified. Not of the other species, not of war, but of themselves. A plague was spreading through their collective, fragmenting their connection, forcing them to experience individual thought for the first time. They were like children suddenly torn from their mother. lost and confused and screaming for help. They had not come to make peace because they were strong. They had come because they were dying. Lisha opened her eyes. Tears were streaming down her face. "They are telling the truth," she said. Her voice was soft, but in the silent chamber, everyone heard her clearly. "They are afraid. More afraid than I have ever felt anyone be. They are not trying to trick us. They are begging us to help them." The chamber erupted in questions. How could she know? How could she be sure? What exactly did she feel? Lisha answered each question patiently, describing what she had sensed, explaining the plague, the fragmentation, the terror of suddenly being alone after millions of years of connection. "They do not want to destroy us," she finished. "They want to understand us. They want to know how we survive as individuals, how we live without being connected to each other every moment of every day." The negotiations took months. There were setbacks and arguments and moments when everything seemed about to fall apart. But Lisha was there through all of it, reading emotions, detecting lies, helping both sides understand each other. In the end, a treaty was signed. Human doctors worked with draft biologists to cure the plague while preserving the individual consciousness it had created. A new species was born, still collective, but now capable of peace. The war that had consumed 17 star systems finally ended. At the signing ceremony, Emperor Valdris approached his youngest daughter for the first time in 2 years. He looked old, tired, and ashamed. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I looked at you and saw only what you had lost. I never imagined what you might become." Lisha took her father's hands. She could feel his regret, his guilt, his desperate hope for forgiveness. "I do not blame you," she said. "You saw what your culture taught you to see. But I hope you understand now. Being different is not the same as being less." Danny stood nearby, watching his wife with pride. When the Emperor turned to him, Danny just smiled. "You asked me once why I chose her," Danny said. "Everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone thought I was wasting my reward. But I knew something your empire forgot. And what is that? True strength isn't what you're born with. It's what you choose to become. Your empire threw her away because she didn't fit your definition of valuable. But humans see things differently. We know that the people who struggle the most, who have to fight for everything they have, are often the strongest of all." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he bowed his head. "I have ruled for 800 years, he said. "I thought I understood the universe. But today a human soldier and a broken princess have taught me that I knew nothing at all." Years later, Lisha became the first human Valorian ambassador, building bridges between worlds that had once misunderstood each other. Danny retired from the military and returned to the farm, where they raised 3 children under the wide Nebraska sky. And whenever someone asked Danny why he had chosen the weakest princess, he gave the same answer he had given from the beginning. "I didn't choose the weakest princess. I chose the strongest one. The rest of the galaxy just couldn't see it yet." Some people thought he was being romantic. Some thought he was being humble. But those who knew him understood the truth. Danny Cole had seen something precious where others saw nothing. He had believed when no one else would. And because of that belief, the galaxy was forever changed. That was the human way. Finding value in unexpected places. Seeing strength in supposed weakness. Refusing to give up on anyone, no matter what the odds. And perhaps, in the end, that was humanity's greatest gift to the stars.